you. Thank you very much for this opportunity. It's always great to be able to talk about the film. So yeah, thanks a lot.
Good. Well, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came into filmmaking and where you studied
Oh,
and all that good, interesting stuff?
tough. Well, I mean, I knew, I think I remember very clearly one knowing that I wanted to be a storyteller, like in my teenage years. But film was not something I even considered. I mean, it seemed so inaccessible to be a storyteller on a screen. I just didn't seem so. My first instinct was to go to university and study to be a journalist. I thought I could be a writer. But when I was in university, we did a course called Writing for the Screen. And that immediately like changed my, like introduced something to me that I didn't know existed. And I really, truly loved it. So, I mean, I thought about it, but it was very inaccessible. So I thought about maybe advertising, the things I could, that seemed within my reach. And then, so I finished campus, started working in a radio station, but I still was very interested in this screen idea. And so I started researching on possible film schools. I mean, just, what the heck, let me try. And so around that time, I discovered a film school in Cuba and I applied and I went to school in Cuba. So I did 3 years of film school in Cuba, where I trained to be a journalist. I'm an editor. So that's how I came into film into cinema rather as an editor. Came back from Cuba and worked as an editor that was like 2010. Came back in 2015, worked as an editor until 2021, where I mean, this idea of directing has always been like there, but I was afraid until 2021 when decided to like bite the bullet and directed Shimoni. Although I had directed 2 short films before, and of course my like short films in film school, but this was like the first jump into making films. And now I am slowly leaving the editing suit. Now I write more. I haven't edited in the last possibly 1 year and a half. So now I'm writing, hopefully directing my next feature next year. So yeah, let's see how this goes.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Mucho gusto.
Gracias.
And there, we may get a film in Spanish from you too. Who knows?
Yes. That would be interesting.
Yes. So
Yeah.
this particular film is in English, Swahili, Kikuyu, and
Mm,
and and then when we have it subtitled, we show it with subtitles too.
mm, mm,
The preview of the film tells people that it's about a Kenyan ex-convict who revisits his childhood and he's grappling with this trauma and societal
mm,
rejection. Um, Very contemplative film. Uh,
mm,
I saw a couple of themes that came out:
mm.
forgiveness, redemption,
Yeah.
morality is seen through a Christian lens.
Mm-hmm.
Morality is seen through the kind of the native or the village lens
Mm,
as well.
mm.
And a question that came to my mind was, um, in terms of starting the film, why did you choose to focus on the period right when the main character, who was
Mm,
played by the great actor Justin Badici,
mm.
why did you choose to focus on the period when he left um, incarceration?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that one of the sparks for the film was this idea of what I guess one of the themes also is this idea of freedom and what freedom really is, and possibly finding it in all this, redemption, forgiveness, and I was really interested in someone who's coming out of incarceration or like a place where they are not free and stepping into freedom, finding a more, um, I guess, really, really finding freedom. Yeah. So sort of breaking out of not just a physical prison, but this sort of emotional prison, or this place that has kept him trapped. Yeah. So that's what I really wanted to explore, and to sort of, play with this, I guess, prison film language where, people are leaving up, like, if, usually someone is, we have this prison film, someone is going to a prison, the jail cell, the cell is locked, but now someone is leaving a prison, and this same things are happening. He goes into a room and the doors are locked, So all of these sort of things are things I really wanted to explore. And really at this space, I really wanted to understand what is freedom? How do we find freedom? Even when we are like literally, our bodies are free, but there are other things that are not. Yeah. So this is what I was very interested in exploring with Jeffrey's story.
I think you did a good job in exploring it too. It raised some
Thank you.
questions.
Thank
Um,
you.
One of the questions that it raised for me as a viewer was, um, what does it mean to be free when you return home? When you return back to a place that was very familiar to you and you had
Mm,
possibly grown out of it, but
mm.
now you're, if you will, constricted to be back there.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, that's it. And also, because other thing that I guess in going back to this home is, again, this home is a place that is also traumatizing to an extent. Like, it has a memory that is difficult for you to confront. Yeah. So in finding freedom, like in finding, sort of release from this memory, or this thing that is scary. I mean, I guess that's where the freedom is, like in finding this thing that you've been carrying, and having to confront it, because you are constricted in this new place. You are in this place, and you have to confront this past, this memory, to really truly find freedom. And then again, the question is, what if you're not able to confront this memory? Yeah, what happens then? Yeah, what happens if you just can't handle it, you can't deal with it? So all these questions were things that I really wanted to sort of just throw out there, and possibly provoke.
Yes. Why did the protagonist have such a big problem with people getting close to him,
Mm,
be it an animal or a human?
yeah. um yeah. Jeffrey was, I think, part of, I guess, being afraid of what being close to people would do, what it would provoke, what it had provoked before. I mean, they're like sort of little flashbacks to his relationship with I guess the antagonist, or the person who hurt him, and they seem to have a close relationship. This he seemed to have a he had a relationship with his brother, with his father. All of these relationships, were broken, were had been they'd been ruined literally by a certain act. And so this is part of the trauma that he is going to allow, if he does allow other people into his life. This is a real thing. They may hurt him, they may hurt him really very badly. So it's something that he had built up over time, just a way to sort of protect himself. Yeah. And again, really rooted in this initial incident with the abuser.
Yeah. If so, they're in a church, or
Mm,
it's this a church community compound.
mm, mm,
And when I was watching the film, I was thinking, okay, there's some norms that are linked with Christianity. There's some commandments, and there's the
mm.
greatest commandment, which is, has a little bit to do with love and loving others, loving
Yeah.
God.
Mm.
Has a lot of bit to do with it, actually.
Yeah.
And then I thought, hmm, because I grew up in the United States, all we do is hear about love songs and such here.
Yeah.
I thought back on a song that Whitney Houston sang in the early '80s, but George Benson also sang it in the
Mm.
mid 70s, The Greatest Love of All, with the
Yeah.
line in it, learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all.
Yeah.
Seems like Jeffrey had a big problem with that.
Yeah.
And they didn't help him that much at the church, in the church setting, to do that once they found out about his past.
Yeah. True. And I think some of it is rooted in a more selfish kind of love, I guess. Which and 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 I don't know, not to judge like the community, because I mean they were protecting themselves, but
Yes.
their initial reaction was to yeah, come together and make sure that nobody hurts them also. Yeah, so they it was it was, they were literally, could be interpreted as a sort of self-love protection, but it's what it does to the other person. Yeah, how does love look in that sort of, in that situation where you are at risk? Yeah, you as like a person is, it's really at risk. Can you then love the other person, or do you choose yourself first, so get rid of the danger? Yeah, so I and I think this was something I really again, I did not want to judge anybody, and I didn't want the film to feel judgmental. It just really was to honestly look at reactions, um, that I mean, life, I mean, choices that we have to make, because life has thrown us these decisions and we have to choose. Yeah. And sometimes this is what we choose. We choose to do certain things that hurt other people because we're protecting ourselves. And love has no place there, or at least the way we imagine love, it takes different shapes and forms, because it's really complex. Yeah. It's a really complex decision that you have to make as a person. Yeah. My children are at risk. The women in this village are at risk. So now, what do we do? Yeah, we have to protect. So that was it. It was just like you really must make a choice. And Jeffrey also had to sort of see that these guys are also making a choice and choose himself also. Yeah.
Yes. There were a lot of symbols of love, affection, longing,
Mm,
redemption, um,
mm.
in the movie, and I wanted to know why you chose those baby booties as something.
Yeah. uh, the baby booties had two reasons why I chose them. Usually, it's very normal. The first thing a mother-in-law will do, or the mother of the woman carrying the child, is to make booties and sweaters. For some reason, they make very warm clothes for the child, even if it's like a super hot place. But they really want to keep the the child warm, so
Mhm.
booties are first. And they start making the booties like at month two. Like it's really also, it feels like almost like an act of faith. Like, I believe this child will come, and so I'm gonna make all these booties. So that was one reason. But also there were, so for the mother, the mother-in-law, rather, the grandmother, the child, they're an act of like love, kindness. But for Jeffrey, they were really like a symbol of guilt. Yeah, it was this thing that was a reminder constantly of the thing that he did. And the mother-in-law, his partner's mother, brings them as that very specifically. So this this beautiful act of love from a grandmother, she uses it as a reminder of the guilt or the hurt that he has brought or imposed on her life. Yeah, so I kind of like this duality of this very simple act, but also simple thing. I mean, a booty is nothing more, but they took on a bigger, profound meaning in the hands of both people, in Jeffrey's hands and in the hands of the mother who or grandmother who made them, and then used them against Jeffrey again. So that was why I wanted, and no one else had been able to remind him of his crime until this lady comes with these booties, and she's like, here, this is what you did. Don't forget that this is what you did. This is the hurt you caused.
Which it seems to have drove him to hurt himself.
Yeah,
That's the end.
yeah,
What a
yeah.
powerful ending scene there. Um, the good thing about this interview is it's after everyone has seen the film. So I'm
Yeah.
not this is no spoiler alert or anything. This is
Yeah.
me asking you about it and commenting, interpreting.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
reason why I want to ask you the next question I'm going to ask you is because I'm looking at the film in a sense from a cultural lens of the United States
Mm,
and of an African American. That would be me. And
mm,
um, I don't know too many Black people who killed themselves by hanging themselves. It's so
mm,
linked to like lynchings that happened during
yeah.
slavery time here and during post Reconstruction, Jim Crow era
Mm,
of the United States. So
mm,
a person might fall out of a window accidentally or
yeah.
poison themselves, maybe overdose,
Mm,
shoot themselves. But I don't. I'm willing to bet that if you looked up the most common causes of death of African Americans, you would not find hanging
mm,
themselves very
yeah.
anywhere near the top middle.
Yeah.
It's going to be real low. So
Mm,
that scene grabbed my attention. I'm
mm,
sure it's going to grab a couple of other people's attention when they see the film too.
mm,
Um, why why that way? Why did he die that way? Or why did you
yeah.
choose to portray it or show the passing that?
Yeah. And it's very interesting that you should say that. Because most of the cases of especially men that I hear who die by suicide, it's usually by hanging. In fact, I it's usually like when we say, like I say in Kikuyu, when you say killing yourself, more often than not, you use the word for for hanging yourself. Like that's what you say for death by suicide. A lot of the times, yeah, they're almost used interchangeably because that's how that's how a lot of especially men have done it. If we just even just looking at the statistics, I think it's also just because it's a very sure certain way of dying if someone is determined to do it. So it's very interesting that you should say this. I think also it also felt right, or it may sound, this may sound not sound wrong, but it just
Mm-hmm.
seemed like the way Jeffrey would do it. I didn't see him, and because another common method like that happened, one of the other is like people light up a charcoal fire and die by new carbon dioxide poisoning. That's also a very common one, but it just didn't seem true to Jeffrey's character. Yeah, Jeffrey did seem like the sort of person who would die that way in a very um, sure way, like hard way. Also because it comes from prison and it happens a lot in prison. Also, a lot of people who die by suicide in prison die by hanging themselves. So those are some of the things that are informed, and also I guess like just in a visual way, it was a very sure way of saying that he had chosen to leave this world by suicide. His feet hanging, something around his throat, as opposed to possibly falling asleep because he had poisoned himself or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to move to more technical questions of the film. That it kind of had a little cinema verite feel to it um, in the beginning when he
Mm,
was leaving the prison.
mm,
At times when he was inside of the church service, when he
mm.
was milking the cow, and when he was practicing his carpentry, uh, much to everyone's avail. um, who who were your inspirations for filming that way?
um, wow. I mean, as an editor, a lot of the work that I do is in documentary. Like I
Yeah.
prefer to edit documentary film. And so a lot of my influences come from just documentary storytelling and documentary filmmaking. And possibly that influenced me a lot more than I thought it would. So I have Oppenheimer. I mean, there are quite a number of storytellers whose work I love as as documentary filmmakers. However, I am a huge fan of Bergman and his work, and I don't know if I mean, he's a lot more staged, a lot more non-variety, but
Yes.
his work is truly an influence, and possibly in the other scenes that are not the sort of quietness is really an influence or something that I've carried forward from from his work. One other influence that possibly in the cinema writer style is Thomas Gutierrez Alea, Cuban filmmakers. I think possibly he may have been a lot more influential when I think of that style.
Okay. Thanks. As a Kenyan filmmaker, what message would you like to leave us, our audience, about
Sorry.
about Kenya, about film in Kenya, and
Mm.
someone says, "Hey, I want to see a film. I want to see a Kenyan film." What message would you want to leave our audience to prep us
um,
for the
yeah.
experience?
Uh, I mean, I have several things that I mean, one is on the language. I think, I mean, Kenya has more than 42 beautiful languages that I think deserve to be on screen. And I think should be given the space to be on bigger screens. So that's one thing is be open to hearing more languages from this part, this small country in the eastern part of Africa, because I think in the way we speak, communicate a lot about our cultures and things that are very unique, I guess, to not just us as a people, but unique to also the tribes. So that would be the first explore as many films in as many languages as you can, because you will see as many cultures and as many experiences as there are languages. And I think tied to this is the idea that I guess Kenyan film is about Kenyans, and there are as many Kenyans, that 50 plus million Kenyans, and I think being able to see as many people and as many stories from these individuals is really interesting. So to sort of imagine Kenyan film as meeting Kenyans and many Kenyans and experiencing many Kenyan stories. But also, I guess there's something there about the possibility of, I guess, yeah, understanding our history, our colonial history, our current post-colonial existence, and that's really truly interesting, and the questions that can come out of it. So even as we watch films, I think it's really important what you are doing, for instance, is to question the films that we see, and question the filmmakers, because I think these are important conversations and ways of exchanging ideas and cultures and experiences and situations. Yes, I guess those would be my messages.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And they will be received. So thank you very much for sharing them with us.
Yeah. Thank you.
At the end of my interviews, I always like to ask the filmmaker to leave us with something. What would you like to leave us with as
Wow.
an International Women's Month, which will start tomorrow,
Yeah.
and also just film in general.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I think, I mean, today is I mean, it's the day after we discovered or found out that Suleiman Sise passed away, which is it would be remiss of me not to speak about him and his work. And I actually read something today from Akoroko about how we need to continue to celebrate our this sort of African filmmakers because of the archives that they carry. And how we can treat them as archives, which really stuck with me. And that you have the opportunity. It's this opportunity at the Cascade Film Festival. It's like 30 films, if I'm not wrong, right? African film. Yeah.
We try and get anywhere from 28 to about 32 films.
Yeah, those are archives. I mean, so to be able to consume this amount of, of experiences and stories and archives from Africa is a beautiful and amazing thing. And I hope that, I guess, the magnitude of what is happening can be felt. Like we can understand that we have there's so much access to so much beauty, and to sort of like glory in it, like to just sit and just enjoy it. Because again, the filmmakers are only with us for a time. And so if we can enjoy their work as long and as much as possible when you have the opportunity, it's always like grab, enjoy, watch, and let this film stay with you.
Thank you very much, Angela. That's about the best public service announcement that we've had for the film festival.
Which, you're very welcome. But it's because it is amazing to just know that there's so much access to African stories. So, I mean, thank you.
Very welcome. In the little hamlet of Portland, Oregon, here we are, an African film mecca.
Yeah. Well done.
So, well, I really appreciate you spending time with us today,
It was a pleasure.
and also sharing your film with us during Women Filmmaker Week.